Danielle Smith yesterday responded to David Eby. Maybe can we show David Eby what he said? And then we'll show the sensible lady to the east of him telling him what's what and reminding him about what actually a confederation means. And look, we can do it his way. If we're not going to be a confederation, that's fine by me. But he's not going to like how it works out for him. So let's hear from David Eby saying, BC is leading with major opportunities to deliver prosperity to all of Canada. Sure. We have billions worth of private sector and First Nations-led projects that are ready to go and will create thousands of jobs. Alberta's fictional bitumen pipeline achieves none of these things. You already have one. It's called Trans Mountain. It just got twinned. That's not fictional. It wasn't built by elves and leprechauns. It's doing its thing. And we will do another. Thank you very much. Or we'll leave. Anyways, let's hear from David Eby. We had him queued up and then I didn't know enough to shut up. So let's watch that.
British Columbia is an unmatched land of possibility. But our province and our country face unprecedented threats. Now, more than ever, British Columbians are coming together with major opportunities that will deliver prosperity for all of Canada. British Columbians are lighting the path ahead, and we're going to deliver a brighter future for our province and our country. Here in this province, we have literally tens of billions of dollars worth of major projects that are ready to go. They are economically sound, private sector and First Nation led, and will create many thousands of good-paying union jobs for families. Through these projects, we will drive the Canadian economy at a time when it's under direct threat and attack by Donald Trump and those who seek to bring his harmful political project here to Canada. The fictional Alberta bitumen pipeline project achieves literally none of these things, doesn't have First Nations consent, makes no financial or economic sense. It has no private proponent, no route, no private funding, and would cost taxpayers billions. The non-existent Alberta pipeline project would put tens of billions of dollars in real BC projects and jobs at risk. On top of that, it threatens one of the world's most precious and intact ecosystems, our beautiful BC coast and Great Bear Rainforest. This region is one of our country's greatest assets and supports thousands of jobs in coastal industries. Salmon alone supports local jobs, communities, and cultures. It's central to both the economy and way of life on the North Coast. The Alberta Fantasy Bitumen Pipeline means putting all of that, the major projects, the economy, the jobs, and our coastline at risk. What the Conservatives in Alberta are pushing is an entirely political creation in the lead up to their election for wedge politics at the expense of British Columbia and Canada's economy. And they're being supported by the BC Conservatives, again, at the expense of British Columbians and our valuable coast. As all Canadians feel the impact of Donald Trump's trade war, let's not give in to those who aim to bring his politics here. We are British Columbians, we are Canadians, and we will choose a better way. As your Premier, I promise you this, I will always stand up for BC jobs, for BC's economy, for Canada's economy, for our country and our province's beautiful and abundant coast. And most importantly, I will always stand up for you.
Okay, so Big D was having none of that, but you go ahead and react to it.
Well, is it British Columbia's coast or is it the Canadian coastline? Like, I think what we need to get that.
He can have it. We're gonna go.
We'll take northern BC with us because David Eby is speaking to a very, very privileged
sliver of BC.
Yes, of unionized BC NDP supporters who lap up his garbage. What is he talking about? Unprecedented threats. What is he talking about? Well, the rest of us are looking south to our American neighbors and friends going, right, how do we fix this relationship that got neglected to a point where it's no longer functional? David Eby is just doubling down saying, we gotta protect BC from big bad Donald Trump, the orange man bad. All he wants to do is fill BC up with more unionized workers. And you want to see an energy project cost 10 times as much, please, by
Yeah.
all means, David Eby, give all of the jobs to unionized workers, please. Like that will fix nothing. But Scott Moe and Danielle Smith are having none of this from BC. And rarely do we see premiers really like take on another premier. Typically they try and keep it really polite.
Let's go to Danielle Smith, and then we'll go to Scott Moe.
Okay.
Danielle Smith was like, no, quote post on X, she's having none of it. She was in full roast mode, this fantasy bitumen pipeline. By the way, David Eby needs to look at how narrowly he lost that won the last election. That is a province divided. And there's a big blue part of that province right up until the Lower Mainland that would love to go its way with Alberta, because I feel like those people are very culturally aligned with us, the ranchers, the loggers, the miners. We're here for you. But Danielle Smith says, Premier David Eby's threat yesterday to fight against and block Alberta's most valuable asset from export off of Canada's Northwest Coast is both un-Canadian and unconstitutional. There is no universe, she says, where Alberta will tolerate being landlocked in our own country by our neighboring province, especially when the same industry he continues to demonize has generated so much wealth for his province and the country. Yeah, he should get out of Victoria and go up to northeastern British Columbia, where those people are as Albertan as the day is long, and visit some gas plants up there. Pipelines and modern oil tankers are incredibly safe, and the economic and job impact of a new Alberta BC oil pipeline, along with the new production needed to fill it, dwarfs any of Premier Eby's nation building projects, which Alberta has been entirely supportive of. So she's basically saying, we're the big dog. We're going to make more jobs than you, but your cute little thing that you're doing there, fine, we'll support you if you want to do it. Your little thing that you're doing, because it's cute. And then she says, if Canada is going to become a functional country again, the Prime Minister, federal government, and every province must have support of their fellow provinces' initiatives to develop and export their most valuable resources. Yesterday, Prime Minister Mark Carney reiterated this to me. Well, words are something, actions are another. And his commitment to reach an agreement on a pipeline pathways and moving forward from the various destructive Trudeau-era policies by Grey Cup in November. Time's a ticking. Time's a ticking. And we're looking forward to reaching an agreement to do exactly that by that date. Anything less would be unacceptable to the people of Alberta.
Beautiful. Perfect. The time for talk is over. Now is the time to act. Well, there is one way that Danielle Smith could compel David Eby of British Columbia to be a little bit more prudent and responsible with his words, and that would be to turn the pipe off to British Columbia. I mean, it would be within 10 days, of turning off the gas from Alberta to British Columbia, David Eby would be on his knees begging Danielle Smith to turn it back on, because his entire province would grind to a halt. And yet, here we have David Eby standing on his little soapbox in Victoria talking about big bad Alberta and how they're not going to compromise their beautiful coastline. Like, oh, David Eby, I just feel like you're in for it. And
why does he talk about us like we're some barren wasteland? We're beautiful. Like, the prairies are gorgeous. You have the grasslands, from the Cypress Hills to the mountains to the prairies to where the grasslands crash into the boreal forest. We're beautiful, pristine, and clean. Why does he talk about us like we're a wasteland?
Yes, exactly this. Well, that's BC BC elitism coming through.
Supremacy.
People from BC do not understand. Yeah, BC supremacy. They do not understand the staggering beauty of the prairies of Alberta, of Saskatchewan, or really east of the mountain range in British Columbia. They just do not speak that language. It'd be really, really good for them to tour some of the other provinces to see just how wonderful and spectacular we are.
Right. And just because we don't wear Arc'teryx and we wear Carhartt does not mean that we don't care about nature. Most of us make our living off the health of nature, farmers. And Scott Moe weighs in. He says the Premier of Alberta is right. The NDP Premier of British Columbia is wrong. And
In-
they're just top tier trolling him on X.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, would I have liked to see Scott Moe say this about David Eby regarding crazy gender stuff in school? Yes. I mean,
Right.
but I'll take this too. Scott Moe telling off David Eby just to get his ducks in a row. But this is somewhat unprecedented. It's very rare that we see premiers of provinces facing off against premiers of other provinces. Typically, they like to keep it really cute. Oh, we're working as part of a united Canada. Everybody is on Team Canada. Elbows up, everybody. But here we have a marked deviation from that support. So, Sheila Gunn, you okay, girlfriend?
Yeah, I just had an on-air coffee delivery. Lyndon walked by and stuffed the coffee in my hand.
Listen, what a good guy. I'm happy to see that you're being taken care of. But no, this is a spectacular meltdown by David Eby. I think he's showing his true colors. And if the BC Conservatives were real smart, they would be up David Eby's back end over these comments. Yeah.
Right, but they're not. Right now they're in the middle of a self-destruct program. And I hate to see it. I just hate to see it, but you know what? Western conservatives have this thing that we do, where if you're not conservative enough, we'll blow it all up. There's a lady driving by in a scooter. This place is crazy. We'll blow it all up and we'll start again. We'd rather do that than sacrifice our principles. Sometimes we'll wander in the wilderness instead of than govern a province without principles at all. And it's a blessing and a curse.
Sheila Gunn Reid, you brought this up sort of in the preamble to the show before we were live, but can we talk about how we are making our political decisions right now?
What do you mean?
Based on, is it good for the kids? Is this going to be
right?
Is this decision that this politician is making? Is this good for our kids? Is this going to serve them later?
That's where I am now. I used to be much more libertarian, but now is it good for the kids? If the answer is no, then we're not doing it.
That's right.
We're just not.
And we're not supporting politicians.
Right. I'm your enemy
who undertake initiatives. That's right. That's exactly right. And we need more of this in conservatism. To get the people who are conservative in name only, who are predatory politicians who will jump on a conservative bandwagon only to undo conservative values in the shadows. We are done with those. We are done with those people. So the more people that embrace traditional conservative values, which are family values, by the way, the better it will be for the conservative movement in Canada. And that's a really super easy litmus test. Is what this politician is doing good for the kids?
Is it good for the kids? If the answer is no, we don't want it.
Then goodbye. Then goodbye. Be gone with you. Yes.
And I'm not saying we have to ban it, although I'm on the ban it bandwagon lately, but we definitely don't want to support it. And don't throw your efforts behind people who want to support things in the legislature or in the House of Commons that are bad for the kids. Like, is unrestrained temporary foreign workers good or bad for the kids? If it's bad for the kids, we don't do it. We just don't do it. Is this book good or bad for kids? If it's bad for the kids, we don't want it in the library.
That's right.
Let's go to, we've got one more video from Danielle Smith where she's basically putting the feds on notice on her pipeline proposal. And again, I reiterate, I don't like the idea of government money going to a pipeline at all. But I think it's never going to come to be while we have a Liberal in power. So I don't think the money is going to actually get spent. So it's just an effort in calling the feds bluff on our pipeline proposal and their C5, which is like, look, we're going to build things now. Oh, are you? So you brought in another law to build things instead of just repealing all the other ones that were preventing us from building things. Sure, that's going to work. But anyways, Danielle Smith was on one of the, the punditry shows. I think it was CTV with Vashi Capellos. And she basically said to the feds, hey, I told ya. I think this is it. No, this is a CPAC. So this is a press conference yesterday. So I'm confusing my clips. But she was asked about this, and she put the feds on notice that, look, you gave me your word, so put up or shut up. So let's watch that.
Premier Eby obviously is really ramping up his criticism of your pipeline proposal, calling it a fantasy. So how are you going to deal with the politics of that, given that he feels so strongly against this idea?
Well, I think Premier Eby's comments are un-Canadian and they're unconstitutional. I think that the Supreme Court has determined that the reason we have a country and have given trade and commerce power and control over ports and interprovincial infrastructure to the federal government is for exactly this reason, so that a parochial premier isn't able to block nation-building projects. So I think that the courts have been pretty clear on that. And I would hope that Prime Minister Mark Carney would realize it's his obligation to make sure that these kinds of projects get built. When you look at the value of bitumen, we believe that this project, if we could build it at 1 million barrels a day, even at today's prices, that would generate $20 billion a year for the Canadian economy, of which the governments take about 40%, and it's about half that goes to the federal government and half that goes to the provincial government. So that is a very high value, long-term return that all it takes is the Prime Minister to say yes. And so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get to that by mid-November.
Parochial, she said.
Parochial. She's in roast mode.
Parochial.
We've got a clip from David Eby responding to the 2 days straight of being roasted by a very important and powerful and productive woman. And it felt pathetic, actually. Let's go to the first one, where he says, "It's not the Danielle Smith show. It's the Canadian team." Oh, is it? Then let us build something, because right now you're acting like it's the BC team. Anyways, he's responding to her, just putting him in his place.
Premier Eby, I'm sure you've seen at this point that Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is in Ottawa this morning. She described your comments as un-Canadian and unconstitutional. What do you say to the concerns that the Premier has raised about your opposition to a potential pipeline to BC's coast being un-Canadian?
Well, I think the big challenge here, and the challenge that I face as BC Premier, is British Columbia is poised to lead Canada into the new economy that we're all understanding is so crucial to create, one in which we're less dependent on the United States, one in which we're accessing world markets, one in which we're standing on our own 2 feet as a country. British Columbia is advancing more than $40 billion worth of projects, real projects with proponents, with financing that are reaching final investment decision. They're going to employ people, not just in every corner of British Columbia, but employ Canadians from across Canada. And 50,000 people helped to build LNG Canada Phase 1. They came from every corner of this country. And the net benefit of that export project, the largest private sector investment in Canadian history, delivered by our government, the net benefit of that flows to all Canadians and to British Columbians. And so that's our work. And a significant piece of the BC economy, a significant aspect of the social license we have to deliver major projects like that and projects that are coming, is the support of communities up and down our amazing coast here in British Columbia. And so if you want to put that goodwill at risk, if you want to threaten these projects and say, we know that your goodwill and your support is dependent on a tanker ban, that the fishing grounds that you count on, the tourism you count on, the lifestyle that you enjoy as a coastal community member, that it's protected by the tanker ban. If we want to say we're going to get rid of that tanker ban and we're going to go after your way of life, let's at least make sure that the conversation is about a real project. Right now, the province of BC, the Premier of BC, is not a threat to the pipeline project of the Premier of Alberta, because there is no pipeline project. There is a public relations department. There is a Crown Corporation with $14 million. The only way currently that project is going forward is with tens of billions of dollars of public money. And if this is in fact another multi-billion dollar federally funded Alberta project, then where is the multi-billion dollar federally funded project in British Columbia? That is the question that I'm asking.
And what is the opportunity cost of a multi-billion-dollar taxpayer-funded Alberta project compared to what we can deliver here in BC, what we can deliver in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Ontario, Quebec, the Maritimes, Newfoundland, the Territories? You show those premiers the opportunity to spend tens of billions of federal tax dollars, and what can they deliver? Give everybody a fair shot. It's not the Danielle Smith show, it's the Canadian team. And we all deserve the same opportunity for the same federal funding for our projects as she does for hers. That's not un-Canadian, that is fair, and there is nothing more Canadian than fairness. That is a core national value.
Are you done with your tantrum, Mr. Eby? We don't want federal money. We just want them to get out of our way. Like, why does he not understand that? We want bad laws repealed so that we can have, once again, private sector investment. Because right now it is a lot easier, I say it all the time, to pay off the local Christian kidnapping warlord in Nigeria or Algeria to get your energy project done than it is to deal with Mark Carney's insane regulatory regime. We used to have the National Energy Review Board, which was a technical review of the project, and it went through safety, technical stuff. You know, there might be something in there for giving back to the community, maybe Indigenous right of first employment, whatever, on certain projects, but it wasn't this. Ask the local feminist basket weaver how the pipeline or the coal mine makes her feel, which is what we're doing now. And when these major companies look at that, for example, the Bakken oil field, the Bakken shale, it's the southern part of Saskatchewan or North Dakota. Now, these companies have an option. Mark Carney's Canada or North Dakota, guess where they're going? To drill in the same oil field. It is not Canada.
That's exactly right. And for so many of us, we do not, Western Canadians are not asking for multi-billion-dollar taxpayer-funded projects. That is the last thing we want. What we're saying is get rid of your crazy regulations that get in the way of private industry investing in Western Canadian projects. And as for the tanker ban, David Eby, oh, if you people on pristine coastlines you want to maintain your standard of living, then we must keep the tanker ban law in force. Well, it's only Canadian tankers that can't access the coast. American tankers run up and down that coastline all day, going from Alaska to the mainland of the United States of America. So David Eby is saying, you know, tankers are only bad as long as they're carrying Canadian product, because he's got no problem with the American tankers going up and down the coastline. Evidently, they don't harm anybody's standard of living. But
those Chinese shipping container ships that are, and this is industry wide, but those big huge ships that are covered in shipping containers, they use bunker fuel, which is the dirtiest form of fuel there possibly isn't. Look, I don't care about these things, but David Eby won't shut up about it. It leaks. It is absolutely not clean burning. It's particulate. It's sooty, but it is basically it's the last chain on the fuel chain, and they burn it in those ships that are coming all the way from China. So David Eby doesn't actually care about emissions. Like, he doesn't. He's not insisting on clean fuel standards for the bunker ships that are coming over from China. He just doesn't like Alberta because we have a strong conservative woman who is interested in making sure that she maximizes the return on investment on the resource that all Albertans own, but she is the fiduciary of it. She has to market it. She has to sell it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, David Eby couldn't be more wrong in this. Good for Scott Moe and Danielle Smith for calling him.
Yeah, and you know what? You know, this is only going to go one way. David Eby, you can let us build a pipeline to the West Coast, or we're going to build it to Cherry Point, Washington, to a refinery there, and they are going to refine your oil and gas and then sell it back to you for an excessive American markup. You could do it either way. It could be a Canadian project, or it could be an American project. And I guess the choice is his. Or it could be a wholly Albertan project, because this kind of stuff fosters Western separation. Because we're like, well, why are we even here? What are we doing here?